Hello, 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 and welcome to Exhale with Regina. Women owning their voices. We come on every other Friday. So this is our Friday to come on. I will be coming on next Friday as well. And we're going to be talking about on these two times, Black women in love. Yes, Black women in love. I think that's a well overdue topic that we need to talk about and breathe life into more and more. And so I have four wonderful ladies. I have attorney Zanelle Brown, who is with us today, and she'll be telling you more about her. I am also going to read a little from her bio, as well as Dr. Maureen McIntosh. And she is also a reverend, as well as her and Chanel are both in diversity and inclusion. Anita Power, who is the breath. She is our poet, and I love that. She's the spoken word, and she uses it in such a way to breathe life and to speak life to mature women, and just a lot going on in her life. And I'm also a part of an organization, 100 Wisdom and Health, and we changed the names. Zanelle and I both are a part of it, so forgive me, Anita. I'll let you explain more about it. Thank you. And then also we have Lauren Billord. Am I pronouncing your last name right?
It's Billord, but
Billord. Okay. All right, good. And we welcome. She's a fantastic woman, millennial, who is doing work in the political field. She's a policy. Into policy as well as social relations studies. And I'm going to share more about that. But I just want to welcome you powerhouses, you Black women who know how to love. And oftentimes, we can limit that love, right? We can think only in love of being in intimate relationships with men. But for Black women in love, there are so many areas in which we can spread ourselves in love, and the work that we do and the ways that we share our voice. And so I just want you to know I appreciate you being here today to share about you being a Black woman and how you love, how you share your voice in that area. So just a little bit about Exhale with Regina. Exhale with Regina, Women Owning Their Voices, was really created for women who have owned their voices to breathe life into other women, women who are not embracing their talents, their abilities, or their gifts. And this was my way of saying that I want you to breathe. And, a lot of times women are not breathing. We're not even taking breath. We're just holding ourselves. We have so much tension and so many things that are going on and so many responsibilities. And I just felt like that exhale with Regina, just inviting us to breathe and to know that the way we breathe is to invite one another to breathe with us. And so I hope today that you gain power, knowledge, and understanding by these four wonderful, fantastic women. Because I know I have my pen and I have my notebook because I'm taking notes today because I am so excited. So I'm going to start off with sharing about Dr. Anita Caprice Powell. Dr. Anita Caprice Powell is a mom. And you know what? This is at the top of her bio. She's a mom of twin daughters, son-in-laws, and grandmom of precious five. She is a Michigan unemployment appeals advocate that actually, I remember when she said before that really her mother started the legacy in this area. She's a metaphysic, counselor, teacher, poet, author, international spoken word artist, inspirational speaker with an inspiring message for the alluring, seasoned, and marvelous mature. It's never too late to get to know and to start to grow your dream. I love that. The next person I want to introduce is Zanelle Brown. Now, Anita refers to her as Zanelle now. She is a court leader. Zanelle makes no excuses and teaches court managers that inclusion starts right here, right now, using the resources currently available. is not the mission statement, but the work that you do each day that moves you along the path of diversity, equality, and inclusion. Zanelle Brown is an attorney, mediation trainer, and certified diversity professional. She is the author of Coffee and Conversation, Inclusion and Belonging. Zanelle is the court administrator for the Third Circuit Court in Detroit, Michigan, and on faculty for the Institute for Court Management and the Michigan Judicial Institution. Welcome, Zanelle. The next person that I would like to read to you is Lauren Billard, and I hope I get that right. Experience in the field of policy and advocacy has allowed her to have a career that spans across the areas of political strategy, policy implementation, and civic engagement. Lauren graduated from MSU in 2011 with a Bachelor of Arts in Social Relation and Policy from James Madison College, and decided to utilize her degree to further pursue a Master of Arts in Public Policy from the New England College. Lauren continued her career in the finance department of political campaigns, which you and Dr. Marie have some of that in common as well, beginning on the congressional campaign of the 14th District of Michigan for a Democratic nominee as Assistant Finance Director, and then on to being the Finance Director for a Democrat nominee for the 39th District for the Michigan House of Representatives. In total, Lauren helped to raise $800,000 in campaign elections in 2014. Lauren has been featured in Forbes, Political, NBC News, and Comcast Newsmaker, CBS, Detroit, and Crane's Detroit Business. Welcome, Lauren, among others. So welcome, Lauren.
Wow.
And then we have Dr. Maureen McIntosh. And just one experience I want to share. Dr. Maureen and I, we met actually on LinkedIn. And I had the opportunity to sit down with her on Zoom. When we got done, we had a prayer house, knocked down, Holy Ghost filled meeting. I was just so happy. And I'm just thankful that she's in my life. So she's a behavioral scientist, human and organizational development systems specialist, specializing in the management of change in multicultural organizations, IFC certified leadership coach, diversity, equity, and inclusion trainer, is executive director of John Maxwell certified coach, speaker and trainer, DISC certified personality assessment trainer, and an ambassador for the John Maxwell Group. She is the founder of CEO of Zabras Orphans Fund, a 501c3. It's a charitable organization dedicated to empower the minds of orphans and vulnerable youth for the future and to free girls from sexual trafficking. Wow. Lived, worked, and traveled extensively in the Caribbean, Latin America, Europe, and Africa. Worked with World Bank, Washington, D.C. for 25 years, leading organizational change, management interventions, coaching, mentoring, and training staff in diversity, equity, and inclusion. Welcome, Dr. Maureen. You ladies are just powerful. I mean, that's all I can say. So actually, I could just, close it up, right? So here we have some comments already. Robin saying, hello, ladies. There is excellence in the room. Welcome, Robin. We love you being here. I just want to start with Anita, and then we'll move on to Lauren and whatever you ladies want to share about your brand. And the areas I want to focus on is definitely dealing with diversity and inclusion, politics, the church, and family, because those are the areas that we definitely can use strengthening in. So I want to start with you, Anita, about your brand and how, take one of those subjects that you can tie into.
Okay, I would say diversity and inclusion, and I'm going to go a little different on that. Diversity meaning that we are diversified individually. We're diversified, beautiful souls. And inclusion, it's it's a beautiful thing to include that we are also divine in our humanness. So when we add diversity and inclusion as in one aspect is within our holistically within ourselves, then we are elevating to a point where we're able to reach that peace of mind, that we're able to, I was just thinking about this the other day, that when I'm thinking, the more now that I'm thinking how the power, present essence of the Creator resides within us, the more I'm more tolerant of my imperfections, the more I'm more loving of my imperfections. And the more that I'm saying, as I'm ready to change and I want to change, I'm not so much in a hurry or so anxious or just got to do it because I got to get perfect. I got to get the way that I think I need to be, because I know that there's something already in me that's already perfect. So all I
All
got to do is just
right.
chill, be who I am, be authentic as all of us are, and then just roll with the flow. So diversity and inclusion, I see it begins. It's like that. Let there be peace and let it begin with me.
All right, I love that. That's great. Lauren, tell us about your brand, and if you could take one of those subject politics, that's what I'm looking at for you. And how you begin to shape your story and develop your voice.
So I think it seems like it would be a given that I would automatically take politics, but I think there are intersections from each, diversity and inclusion, as well as religion. From a religious standpoint, I wouldn't be where I am without my faith and allowing God to lead me in the right direction. When I first entered the political landscape at like 23, a lot of people wanted to, you know, expound upon the potential that they saw and wanted to drive my career in the direction that they saw fit. And I'm someone that, because I knew the true source of what talents God gave me or what I bring to the table, I chose to move the needle in my own direction based on where I saw gaps. And so I always say to other people, I see myself as a bridge builder. In my own branding, I call myself a political savant and entrepreneurial opportunity maker, because I take an entrepreneurial and innovative approach to how we look at politics. And so I look at one intersectionality, which is where diversity, equity, and inclusion comes in. Um, to be realistic about the political landscape, I've always been the first and the only, typically in my roles, and this is sad even to this day. So whether that was working on the fundraising side of politics and then moving into political strategy and now being more in policy and government affairs, it has kind of allotted me to see where our voices need to be, but then to help elevate those voices even further, so that we can close that gap and think about the change agency for the future. So all of those things really are combined. And I think as a Black woman, it's even more important and more paralleled as how we look at the alignment and not sector ourselves off from how all of those things play a role in our lives.
I love that. That is really powerful. You just took one little piece from each one, and that's really powerful. And seeing ourselves as whole, that's what I'm hearing you say. Yes, from all those areas. Thank you. Dr. Maureen.
So, if I were to talk about myself, it would take me years. I'm almost 70 years of age, and I have 70 years of wisdom that is inside this body. So, which section of me, which part of me, which part of my heart do you want to hear? The part that I like to talk about is my relationship with God, because that's the part of me that gives me, that makes the essence of who I am. I grew up in a home of love. I grew up where we prayed about everything. And I grew up in a home where we didn't have everything, but we had everything. So that's the essence of me. When I say we had everything, we had God, and because of the fact that we had God, and my grandmother gave me a relationship with God, I had everything else. On that foundation is what I was built on, the foundation of love. you talk about Black women in love. My grandmother never got married, but she had a lot of love to give. She had
Mm.
7 children, and each one of them, she gave them love. And several, now she has thousands of grands and great grand. And when you meet us all we talk about is the love that our grandmother passed on to us, because it was the love that was purely from God, the love that taught us how to forgive, the love that taught us how to forgive ourselves, to not take
Oh,
ourselves
love that.
seriously, and the love that taught us how to be patient with ourselves and to be patient with each other. The love that taught us gentleness, that we need to be gentle just because we are growing up in a world where women are changing their voices to become more masculine and more assertive doesn't mean that we are not gentle people and that we need not transform ourselves from the being that God has created us. And so, with all of that love, because I receive love, I don't necessarily need to look for love. I give love because I have a lot of it to give. And first I love me above everything else. And then I'm able to love other people. So that's the essence of who I am. I receive God's love, receive the love of God, and now I live my life loving my family, loving the body of Christ, and loving every person that I see. And love is defined differently, but I love every person that I see because, like Anita said, we have something to give. There's a lot of deposit in us. And because of that deposit, we're able to draw from the wellspring of love that was deposited in us.
That's powerful. Thank you. The wellspring of love. All right. Zanelle. Tell
Thank
us
you. Thank you,
about
Regina.
Zanelle. Yes, thank you.
And the powerhouses who went before me, thank you for your wisdom as well. When I think about who I am and what my brand is, I start setting the table with what I do each morning. And basically, it starts off with an affirmation for myself and other women. And my one of my favorite affirmations is I am whole, perfect, strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy. And
All right.
start there. I am whole, perfect, strong, powerful, loving, harmonious, and happy. And it's from Charles Hannell, and it's from The Secret if you've seen that, but I've adopted that as like my wake up mantra. And then when I go about the day to do what I do, I work in a court system and I see a lot of injustices. And then what comes to mind for me when I think of diversity and inclusion is the quote from Dr. Cornell West: "Justice is what love looks like in public." And so I feel like I'm a servant to that. That I need to make sure that I'm right, that I appreciate my diversity aspects. I'm able to accept and appreciate others and their diversity, and that I create a system that is respectful of diversity and has equal access to everyone. One of the things that I have in my background is that I used to be the child support director. So, as Dr. Maureen had pointed out, that love, that family love, you can see when that is missing. And to sit down and
Mm-hmm.
work with families and mediate and figure out what needs to happen for this child to be taken care of. And oftentimes it's just this: I need for you to get out of your own egotistical mess and realize that you have a gift, a life that you're supposed to be contributing to. And then let's figure out from there how we can do that and come up with some solutions. So when I think about my brand, that's where I start.
That's beautiful. I love that. I absolutely love the affirmations, affirming yourself first and allowing you to walk with others in the same way. So
Mhm.
thank you for that. And I can attest that on your group page, we get affirmed.
Mhm.
We get affirmed. So Robin says, you are blazing a trail. You are a trailblazer. This is powerful. I believe that's when Lauren was speaking, and then she wrote this. I agree. We can maintain our God given voice and stand in our authentic power without having to take on another identity outside of who God has created us to be.
Mhm.
You know, I love what Robin said. And when I was thinking about this, black Black women and love, I really started to thinking about, the things that our fathers and our foremothers have gone through. I started to thinking about their lives before they came to America, or before slavery interrupted their lives, and what that life must have been like. And I think about their lives and our lives now, and what parallels about it. Um, and what parallels for me is that us as women, sometimes as Black women, we can get a bad rap. We can be perceived in certain ways. We can be taken out of context. And when I think about that, I think about right now how Michelle Obama was taken out of context. Then I think about Kamala Harris, and the list can go on and on and on. And then even dealing with Black Lives Matter. And because this is Black History Month, and this is Love Month, February the 14th, can you guys just speak to how you feel impacted or not by what you are seeing, in the earth, and how that's speaking to you right now? Does that make sense?
It does.
It does.
Thank you.
That,
Um,
well, mhm.
oh, I
Go
was
ahead,
just going
Lauren.
to
Go
say
ahead.
that, well, one, there's a couple of things that come to mind with that, because there's different sectors again that like play a role, right? One, some of the parallels I see are that even from our ancestral standpoint to where we are today, service is still the rent that we pay for our time and space on earth. I think it was back then, and I think it is today. Um, However, I think Black women have always consistently been the matriarchs of society. We are the matriarchs of this country, but we are consistently although we are this backbone, everything falls on the blood, sweat, and tears of our backs and are built on that. And so that being said, it's hard when you are kind of the rooting there, right? It's kind of like we are, in a sense, the bark of the trees. Like everything is kind of rooted in our gifts, our talents, what we bring to not only this country but this world. But then sometimes all you're seeing are the leaves. And I use the same analogy in politics when I compare like the state and federal level all the time. That the state level is the foundation of policy and politics and the work that happens, but the federal level is sometimes all you see. So, which is many times why people tend to vote more in presidential elections than midterms, but we will not go down that rabbit hole. But the same can be said for how Black women are seen in this country. You know that the tree bark is holding up the tree. Okay, that's realistic. You know it's there, but you're paying too much attention to the leaves. When you call it a pretty tree, you're paying attention to the leaves, and the leaves are typically, cisgender, heterosexual white men, white women, sometimes Black men. And we're kind of left to hold up all of those, use our roots to hold up the foundation and strength of other people. And so when we think about self-care, love, well-being, it requires us to continue to pay attention to the roots. And some of that is people stepping back from their privilege to allow Black women to have that freedom. And not just freedom at this point to have a voice and be vocal, but freedom to also be silent. Like we do not always have to talk when we do not want to talk. We do not always have to drive or be the drivers of the conversation. We can include ourselves when we feel it's necessary, or when we feel that it drives the conversations and dialogues and platforms and missions forward, without draining ourselves of our power. Because once you drain it of its power, then the tree dies. So.
Wow, that's powerful. I love that. You have a book coming out? I love that. Go ahead, Anita. You were going to speak to it.
Oh yeah. Let's see. I was gonna say, as far as like the shift today, before, and this is like a chronology. In the dynastic period, women like Queen Pharaoh Hatshepsut, She was Pharaoh of Egypt, and she ruled the land. I mean, the gave the most peaceful her time in ruling Egypt was very peaceful. Her thing was trade as opposed to war. Then
Yeah.
back in that day, in those times, women were considered on the same strata. It wasn't a sex thing. Women could adopt children, they could sue, they could do all kinds of things. They had the power. Then we get to there was a shift, and then we get to the slavery part of our ancestry, and the Black women still are remaining strong. I just saw a video with Sojourner Truth, and my brother sent me some videos. He tagged me regarding the unsung or unsaw stuff that went on with slavery, and
Yeah.
just the horrendous conditions and the horrendous way that we as Black women were treated, but still hung on. And now today, when I'm looking at today, as far as us women, I remember growing up, most of my friends were men because I just didn't have women girlfriends. I just didn't have them. It was even back then. It was like the catty thing, or you can't trust you can't trust you
Yeah.
can't trust you can't trust a girl. You can't trust them because they'll stab you in the back and this and that. And I even still hear some of that even today. And I
Even today.
but that's not the way it is though. That's something that was yesterday, and that we need to start now to grow more into um one, not be so external data driven, because once we,
Oh, I love
again,
that.
getting back into, once we know who we are, and once we know, I am a future ancestor. You know what I mean? Just like I'm an ancestor today because I'm gonna be one tomorrow, and I'm carrying the DNA and the memory and the love and the power and all of that from my ancestors of yesterday. So I believe, as far as like with the love, yesterday and today and tomorrow, I'm seeing that more of us are really, really getting into the essence, that holistic, the who we really are. And that again, that there's a dynamic with us. We're human. There's that human element, there's that the divine element. And when we bring that together, now we're embracing each other, because there is no threat. There is no threat. Now I can safely love you. Why? Because I really love myself.
Wow, that's powerful. Okay, so I know you have some books now. You and Lauren, y'all speaking. Zanelle, what do you have to say?
So when I look at today where we are, it's like trying to set the record straight. And I think that that's part of the service that I bring, especially in the judicial field.
Yes.
It's as if you see a Black woman who's an attorney say, oh, there's an anomaly. No, there's a real history to all of that. In the 1950s, Black women started breaking through. In Detroit, 1980, think of Judge Lucille Watts. 1950, Geraldine Bledsoe Ford,
Mhm.
all of that, but it's not recorded anywhere in the court's annals where people can just pick up that book and see it. So part
Wow.
of my service for Black History Month was writing 3 articles. Well, it's
Okay.
four. What you can do during Black History Month, regardless if you're Black or not, there's something you should be doing to learn more, do more. An article on one of our judges who's at the Michigan Court of Appeals who stepped down so her seat could then she requested by the to the governor that you give another African American woman the chance that I had to serve this state. So Judge Stevens, I wrote an article on Judge Cynthia Stevens.
Yes.
I wrote an article also on Judge John Murphy, who sits at the Third Circuit Court. He's, I believe, the longest serving African American judge in Michigan.
Wow.
And then
Wow.
I wrote the history, just some notable Black figures and some of the history of our recorder's court that no longer exists because it became part of Third Circuit. So a part of the service that we're talking about is like, what is it that I'm supposed to do here? Let me make sure I've done my part so I can record, what happened with the ancestors and how I've been impacted
Yes.
by the ancestors. So nobody who comes after me think that you got here on your own. You may have woke up and you're very successful, but you didn't get there by yourself. There is a strong foundation, a strong tree that we're standing on.
That
Yeah.
is so powerful, Zanelle. Wow. So
Mhm.
where can we find the articles?
They will be in the Detroit Legal News throughout the month. I don't know the
Okay.
publication schedule for them, but they'll be in the Detroit Legal News. So the entire legal community is put on notice.
All right now. I
Mhm.
love it. Dr. Maureen?
Yes, ma'am. I want to piggyback on what Dr. Anita said a while ago, that we as Black women, we have something on the inside to give. And in thinking about ancestors and looking at ourselves as the ancestors of tomorrow, we're
Mm,
living our future today.
wow.
So, such that I sat and I wrote what my life looks like at age 95. I actually sat and wrote that.
All
And
right.
today I am living into that because I see myself as having been brought into this world to do something specific. And if I don't do it, no one else will do it for me. So I
Mm,
have to point out, though, that because all of you are African American women and I am African Caribbean, I take a different viewpoint to how you present the your life. In the Caribbean, we are used to seeing women in power.
okay.
We grew up with women being in power. We never had to struggle to get into positions of power in organizations, in the school, in politics. So we didn't have, when I was growing up, we didn't have that. So that was is one thing that we didn't have to worry about. We took it for granted that we were obviously going to be bankers, we were going to be teachers, we were going to be lawyers. There was no fighting, there was no competition. Competition, yes, among ourselves to get to the best positions, but we didn't have to deal with the structure of racism that you guys had to deal with. So when I came to the United States, I wrote my dissertation on the struggles of the three types of Black people in America: women, African Americans, African Caribbeans, and Afro women from Africa. And I realized that though we are Black in skin color, our experiences are so different that even when you put us together, what we focus on is so different. So now for us is culture and economics. The culture and the economics. So it's socioeconomic culture is what we look at. And we take over from the men. And we don't let the men walk all over us. And we know who we are. We know we have come here and we are setting the record straight, like you said, Zanelle. We're setting the record straight. And in here in America, as Africans, we're here in America. As Caribbeans, we're here in America. And you guys look at us and you say, but what is it about us? But we don't have to fight with the things that you have had to fight with. So we had to unlearn in order to be able to learn so that we will be able to live, coexist with you in America. And it was a different struggle for us. But yes, as women, we can get together if we know how to love ourselves and then love each other.
That is really powerful. We have some comments here.
That's
Erica says, that's deep. I can safely love you because I can love myself. Yes. And
Mhm.
then Robin says, especially when it comes to our bodies, and God forbid we express any level of frustration, we can be characterized as an angry Black woman. You
Mhm.
know, I'm going to jump to Zanelle. Zanelle, I really want you to speak to that us being jumped to as angry black women, because even Dr. Marine said something like, in you that standing up for who we are, but not that we have to stand up like, defensively. But what have you found in the court system that has tried to shape you or say that you are this type of woman? When we look at you, we can tell you, we can see your gentleness. Um, but I'm wondering, how do you live out, the type of the type of things that you run into in the court system. And so let me say that I used to do family reunification and come in with judges and stuff like that. And it wasn't just the white man. That was a whole different ball game for me to experience. But if you can just speak into that, how you have had to embrace who you are in that system.
So I'm not going to say the court system per se. I'm going to say the entire legal community,
Okay.
because whatever I've experienced it in the courts, outside the courts, or whatever. But it usually starts off with there's an assumption that you know who I am,
Okay.
and
Oh,
you don't know
wow.
who I am. You don't know how I got to where I've come. I've had people assume that, I've been a benefactor of some affirmative action program, and I
Yeah.
wish I could have been, but it didn't happen that way. I've had some people who, assume that there's been some carve out, or somebody, this, that, or the other, and it hasn't been that way. And until you take the time to get to know me, you really can't put me in a box. And then you walk into a room, and then someone assumes that you're there as the court reporter, which is no disrespect to court reporters, but no, I'm there as the attorney. And I've stood side by side by a man who reported to me, but because he was a certain color and a certain age, you assume I reported to him. And
Mm.
so he and I both laugh when people ask me, "Well, do you work for him?" I was like, "Yeah, I work with him." So it's like, people have to back up. You make all these assumptions. And because I don't show my emotions the same way that you show yours, don't think it's anger. I may be a warrior on some issues and not willing to back down, but it's not coming from anger. It's often propelled by love of justice, love of what's fair, love of what's right. And until you
I
take the
love
time
it.
to get to know me and see my perspective, you won't understand that. You won't know what my credentials are. You don't know what I'm bringing to the table. You won't know where I'm coming from. So it's not an angry woman. If somebody's angry, sit down and talk with them, because it's probably something way deeper than that. Anger is just quick so you can dismiss somebody and get on about your life and be comfortable. Find out what's really going on, and then you may have a whole different perspective on how you see that person and what you do, how you deal with that person.
I love that, Zanelle, because it oftentimes it is based on assumption. And I did hear you, Lauren, say that unfortunately you find yourself the only woman in the room, black woman in the room, who is doing the work that you're doing. You want to speak to that? Um, okay.
Yeah, I can speak to that more. So, I mean, it's quite unfortunate because you kind of, um, here's how I'll put this. I'll say in politics, you really have to have like a lot of backbone. I would say you have to be very no nonsense. And I'm already no nonsense as a person anyway. So I can be very likable, but I also set a lot of boundaries. So it's like we are not friends. Like this is a job. And I think because of the boundary setting and being kind of like no nonsense, I don't really get hit with a lot of the same things as other Black women that work in my same industry. Also, too, my title and working my way up through my career, people also don't really try me as much because it comes with more consequence. So where I'm at in the juncture of my career, it's odd because it's like, yes, I cannot sit here and say other Black women politics are not facing the same thing. They do express it to me often. They express that, they'll have people, it's all types of comments that would set us back. a lot of years, and will kind of challenge some of these quote unquote liberals and progressives that you think are sitting at the same table as you. But I think people know who to try and who not to try. And that's just kind of how our industry works. And so when I'm in the room, I try to make sure that I can speak for the people that they won't allow to be at the table or in the room, or who haven't been given the same opportunity or feel that there's a lot more steps to climb to get there. And that includes encouraging a lot of other, not even just younger Black women, but just there could be someone older than me that I would still encourage to step out there. And that includes legislators as well. Having worked with so many legislators, and because I work more in a lobbying capacity, I'm able to kind of drive that for them a little more when giving them support around policy, legislation. It's different when someone's in a staffer capacity because their theme is kind of like to support and elevate the legislator in that sense. But my sense is to say, no, you need to step out on this policy issue, like in the media, or make your platform and voice heard. And so a lot of times, being the only Black woman, I will try to seek opportunities to say the thing, announce the elephant in the room. And so
All right.
for some reason, I don't know, a lot of white people clearly are not offended when I say it. I'm still saying it the same way. I don't know how it comes out different, but I'm not going to sugarcoat it. So even whether that's writing op-eds or whether it's television, podcast, anything, like I talked about the intersectionality of the pink wave and how that period in 2016 of the women's marches and in 2017 did not include a lot of Black voices. And if it weren't for Fannie Lou Hamer and many others, like you're kind of riding the wave of what the groundwork they laid, or talking about the 5-year anniversary of the Flint water crisis because no one else was talking about it, or talking about the dual consciousness of democracy and how, we continue to turn out the vote, and yet we are not seeing a change in the underrepresentation of Black women in state legislatures. So even for my work in my current role, I did a No Democracy Without Black Women campaign, hashtag, feel free to use it, where it kind of looks at that underrepresentation because Black women still make up less than 5% of state House and state Senate legislators. And we're not even going to get into the federal level of that. So all of that being said, being the only one is lonely as far as like, I guess, feeling like I have, a professional peer I can be like-minded with or build some type of strong rapport relationship that in a trusting and sisterhood sense. I do not have as many of those types of experiences that someone might have in the corporate realm or other industries. But knowing that I can kind of pave a pipeline for other people and kind of like talk about not only the unsung heroes, but the heroes to be sung in the future.
Oh,
We lost her.
Yeah. Can you see me? Oh, there we are.
okay.
Okay.
Janelle is not here.
Okay. Yep. I got to put her in.
Okay.
Okay. Wait a minute. Okay.
I
don't know what happened
here. But yes, that being said, that's kind of been my experience, and kind of in my industry around that.
Yeah. So there's so much going on right now, right? Dr. Maureen, did you speak to that? I'm sorry, I don't want to miss anybody or.
I think so.
Okay, good. That kind of threw me. The everybody leaving. I was like,
I just got thrown too. So
okay,
yes,
okay.
Being the only person. No, I actually haven't spoken about that.
Okay, go ahead. I'm
being
sorry.
the only person in the room. I find myself being the only person in the room in different areas of my life. At the World Bank, for example, where I've worked, one of the things that I noticed is that taking myself out of the administrative management into middle management, I was the only person in the room. And the people who advocated for me were not my own African Americans or Caribbeans. It was European males.
Okay.
I have to say it. And the people who try to pull me down were the people who were like me, wouldn't give me what I needed to have in order to do the work that I needed to do. so that I would succeed. That's the experience. Being the only person in the room, getting into being 25, 30 of us at Johns Hopkins, and I'm the one or two, the only two Black people, one from the Caribbean, one from myself, and another person from Asia, one woman, one man, and we are the only ones in the room telling our story, or talking about our experience so that we could be understood. Being the only person in the room, being married to a white male, and being asked by many African Americans and Caribbeans, why did you leave us and go over to that side?
Mm.
Being the only person in the room walking in Harlem, could not hold the hand of my husband, who, when we walked together, we would hold hands in Europe, but we couldn't hold hands in Harlem. He had to walk in front of me, and I walk in the back of him, because we were both scared as to the what we would receive, what we were, how we would be received. So you're talking about from a socioeconomic background, or also in organizations, in leadership, just seeing how lonely it could be, but at the same time delving into one's inner power and resilience in order to not become bitter, but better, so
Right.
that we will be able, going through the adversity, going through the challenges, recognizing that somebody's got to chart the course, and why not me? Somebody's got to change the narrative. Why not me?
Yeah, thank you for that, Dr. Maureen, because oftentimes we may not think about that, right? And so that's what the diversity and inclusion is about, looking at um, that social economical factor when we do marry outside of the race. And it's interesting um, that people would say that to you when, as a Black woman, one of the things I had to become more accepting of is the fact that I had this thing about, oh, I'm going to marry a Black man. Oh, I'm going to marry a Black man. Oh, I got to marry a Black man. Um, and so I wasn't thinking about marrying a white man or any other, race, because for me, I need to marry a Black man to show him my loyalty and support. And I would often say I didn't feel that there was any loyalty there for me. And I'm not saying for all Black men, but that I would feel that way. And I would find myself more so in my younger years getting angry about it. And but that's a narrative that I had to change within myself, and still have to remind myself that, that's a narrative that you have to change. So thank you for sharing that. I do want to ask you, ladies, about what we see going on. You guys have written books. You are involved in youth programs. You have started nonprofit organizations. Now you see what's going on in the schools, how books are being taken out that represent us. Laws are being created. Um, and so, how, I guess I'm asking you ladies to speak to that. And what are some of the solutions that can come about in how we work through this?
I think, and I'm going to speak because growing up, my daughters, I have twins, and often I would take them places. And I remember one place in particular was the zoo. I had taken them to the zoo, and there was a stone monument or statue of Cleopatra. And I had them, I said, look at this Cleopatra. I said, this is Cleopatra. She's the pharaoh of Egypt. However, this is not the true reflection. I said, Cleopatra was Black. Cleopatra had brown skin like your mom. And I would show and share, information like that. For me, as far as with the books and different things like that, I am an advocate of, yes, I believe our school system is to teach our children. I believe our teachers are to give our children attention that they need. However, I believe that behind that closed door, I believe when I was a single parent, it was my responsibility to make sure my daughters knew where they came from. It was my responsibility to make sure they knew what the bloodline. It was my responsibility to teach them the contributions that we have made as collectively and individually. So I really believe that it started with me. That's what I believe.
Okay.
And that's how I had, taught, would teach my children, of course, being forefront with the schools, because I would go to school. They would never know when I would pop up, because they said, okay, their mom is going to come anytime to see what's happening in the classrooms. But I always said it starts with me.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Zanelle?
So listening to Dr. Anita Powell, I can't agree more that parents are critical to the development of their children. I think our system right now has a lot of impediments in the way for the parents to fully play that role. Where I would love to teach you deeply about your history, but I got to go out here and work to make sure I got food on the table. Or you're at home right now in the pandemic trying to virtually learn, but I got to go to work because I don't have a means in which to stay home and to do
Mhm.
the rearing there. So I think a lot of things pull the parent or are barriers to the parents to be that role. And a lot of policies are not supportive of parents. And the most policies don't seem to benefit the poor in any substantial way. They may be a quick handout here or there, but if you give me $1,000 and I've never been able to manage 20, you haven't given me much. So how do we
Mhm.
really look at what the systemic issues are, the structural issues,
Oh,
and
yeah.
equip those people, the parents, to go beyond poverty and to really invest in themselves and their children in the family unit? And when
Wow.
we're electing people, we should be looking for that.
That's powerful. Well,
Mhm.
Lauren, as a millennial, do you share some of the same attitude as older folks, or is there another view to this?
Well, I think it's not really from a generational view. I think it's more so probably me working in politics and knowing
Okay.
the manipulative strategy that happens typically from the GOP. So, one, I knew when you asked this question, it was relative to CRT, or critical race theory,
Mhm.
and what's clearly happening across schools. The reality is that um, the GOP is always thinking 5 steps ahead, and when they're backed into a corner, they try to come up with something that will change the narrative, right? And so right now, what they're using is like culture wars. And that kind of stemmed from the building, well, coming off of the 45 era and building this insurrectionist radical right that was more stemmed into culture than it is into partisanship, because at that point you can't really call that Republicans, Tea Party, Independent. You can't call it any of that. It's its own unique party. But you know, it's a smart way to divulge divulge or divulge, dissect, and distract many voters. That is their voting block, so that they will be able to win elections. It's always about maintaining power. So the reality is CRT is a easy scapegoat because it incorporates race. And if somebody was voting based on policy, so based on what you could do for their community, economy, voting rights, redistricting, etc., it would lean more Democratic. But CRT is a way to say, oh, well, but no, this is about race and I don't want to talk about that. So let's just go on, and that's a way to do that. And so that's what happened in Virginia. And that's kind of how we got the governor we got this past November.
Yeah.
Um, so, you know, that is going to be used heavily in 2022 and heavily in 2024 because it works. People grab onto whatever concept can make them feel comfortable in their stance or in their ignorance rather than addressing things. That's exactly what's happening with CRT. So I'm not necessarily looking at it from a school standpoint or, like I said, a generational standpoint. This has everything to do with partisan play, okay? And like that is all it is. I can just tell you that. So it really was never about teaching the history. It was about we want to be able to use race as a voting block tool to not have more people who identify with a certain partisanship to lean more left, and that's all it has to do with.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And, that was lovely. I appreciate everything that everyone have shared. We have 5 minutes. And Dr. Maureen, I'll start with you, but I'm going to move on from that question and ask, I know your faith is strong, and talking to all of you ladies, I hear your faith. Um, is there anything that you want to share with the audience when they listen to the replay, or that you can leave with them and encourage them, and if we can try to get everyone in, I would appreciate that. So I'll start with you, Dr. Marine.
I would quickly say lean on our faith and ask for insights, pray for insights into what is happening in our world today, because it's much more than what meets the eyes.
Yeah.
Pray and ask God to show us what He is doing. And I'm talking to church people, and I'm talking to millennials, and I'm talking to just about anyone who has any faith at all. Ask the creator of the universe, where are we? What does He want us to do? And how does He want us to respond to all of the things that are happening in the world today? Because it's much deeper, much bigger than what we see on the outside.
Thank you. Dr. Anita?
Just quickly, I would say, at 65, life has taught me learn to have some fun. Let's start living life through rose-colored glasses. Have some fun. If I can't have fun with it, and I'll try my best to have fun. If I can't have fun with it, I'm leaving it alone. Let's just start laughing and enjoying life and just having fun, because I'm an energy gal. And if a lot of us start being more fun and more free, there's going to be some energy shift in the universe. So that's all I have to say is just lighten up. We need to lighten up a little bit.
All right, lighten up, have some fun. All right, pray and ask God, the creator, to show us, because it's bigger than us. And Zanelle?
I like the aspect of having a community of women. As well as I do on Facebook, I have my Women with Wisdom and Courage group, where it's just a social media group. Affirmations are posted each day, some polling questions, but we have conversation. And then once the pandemic stops, we'll get together in person. So definitely having a strong community of women where you can talk about issues like this, not just once every Friday, but tap on it, daily.
I love that. Thank you, Zanelle. Miss Lauren?
Yes. So there's two things I've always said, and I think I've been saying it literally since I was like 14. But one is, and I always say this anytime, any panel, is never dull your diamonds to let rock shine. That's always been one that I've said. Another that I've always said is we can't break down the barriers within society until we break down the barriers within ourselves. So just taking time to like truly get to know yourself. And I love what Zanelle said about community and not being afraid to desire community. Social media has gone into this new sphere of like everyone knows everything and they're all giving self-proclaimed advice and gurus of everything. And some things are beneficial. However, we can't self-love our way into companionship. And that's whether it's romantic, platonic, it's okay to desire that. No one should be pigeonholed for that, especially successful, ambitious Black women. I do not just encourage friends oh yeah, girl, focus on your career. No, if you desire that and more, you should be able to desire everything you want in your life and manifest it and not have to be limited to one scope or one trope of an identity. So that's what I would do.
Oh, that's really powerful. Well, thank you, ladies, for sharing today. We did. Robin said, I have loved this conversation. I
Thank
agree with you, ladies, that we need to have fun, seek the creator, build community. And those two quotes, I need to go back and really hear what you said. They were really powerful, what you live by. So thank you for your mantra. I just want to say that thank you, audience, and for those who are going to hear it at another time, for breathing life. Thank you so much, Lady, for breathing life and allowing us to breathe life and exhale with Regina. You guys take care. Please make sure that you go to my website. I'm trying to get my banner. I don't see it. Hold on. Here it is. It's called Exhale with Regina. I'm sorry, reginachall.com. You can reach Dr. Maureen. Now I'm rushing. Dr. Maureen, she put her leadership development coach, speaker, and trainer. And I'll make sure I post this at drmaureenmcintosh.com. Then we have Lauren, and you can go to laurenblore.com. And Anita, uh, you can go to tapintouyu at gmail.com. And then Zanelle, where you go? Where is Zanelle?
Just look up the
There it
name on
is. I got
LinkedIn.
it.
you. Here we
And then
go.
you go to the LinkedIn for Zanelle. So thank you so much, ladies, for being here. I love you and I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Bye.
Oh, and then Patricia Harris says, great conversation. All right.
Nice to Sharon, you guys. Love
Bye.
you.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.